Okay, three, two, one. Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for waiting. Just making sure everything was set up on our end, but thank you for joining us live today. Just want to say right off the bat, if you have any questions for Eric or for Gravity Sketch, feel free to just put them in the chats here on the right, and we'll try and address your questions. But yeah, if you have any questions for Eric, I'll make sure and shoot them his way when it's a good time. But yeah, today we are joined by Eric Stoddard. He is an automotive designer, instructor, founder, many things. I'll let him introduce himself a little more deeply, but just to give a little introduction of myself, I'm the design community manager here at Gravity Sketch, and so I talk to all of you and answer your questions and get to meet amazing people like Eric. So Eric, I'll just shoot it over to you. If you could just tell who's watching a little bit about who you are.
Hi. Yeah. So my name is Eric Stoddard. Primarily I'm a design manager at Ford Motor Company. I've been in the auto industry for over 20 years. I have prior experience at a Hyundai Motor Company and also Chrysler. I've worked in Detroit. I've worked in California. And I even spent a couple of years in South Korea. So currently I'm in an advanced design role at Ford Motor Company. I'm involved quite a bit in our car crossover and Mustang featuring at Ford. So we're currently doing a lot of work with the future of Mustang and a lot of our future crossovers and things of that nature. Prior to that, I was actually the design manager for the next generation Mustang, which is coming out in a few years. I was also involved at various points in the program, but I was involved and played a supporting role with the Mustang Mach-E program, which is our battery electric crossover. So that's Ford. And then, as you mentioned, I do a lot of teaching. Currently, I'm teaching at Cleveland Institute of Art. I'm a graduate of Cleveland Institute of Art, and I like to give back to the school and work with students and help them develop their careers. In addition to that, I have recently founded my own independent online training platform called Cardesign.academy. And the goal there is to really it's to reimagine design education in order to be much more fluid and efficient, and also a lot more cost effective for those who are truly talented and truly driven to succeed in the field. And so it's an unaccredited, non-degree program solely based on skill and portfolio development. And so I work with a lot of students who are everything from high school students who are thinking about automotive design all the way to experienced professionals in the industrial design fields outside of automotive who might be interested in getting into automotive, and quite a few recent graduates as well who are currently in the midst of the current economy and are just trying to keep their portfolios moving along so that when the job market improves, they'll be in really good shape. So that's what I'm doing with Cardesign.academy.
Awesome. Yeah, I just want to show. We can actually show it here in a minute. I was trying to pull up just a little preview of the website, but we can show that in a minute actually. But I actually wanted to just right off the bat ask you. This is something I ask a lot of. A lot of the designers, especially that have a lot of experience in any industry, whether it's automotive, industrial design. I just want to ask you what got you interested? Like, what was your initial interest in cars in the beginning? What was sort of the spark for you, as early as you can remember, that set you on to this entire career now, that you've made. What was that initial spark for you?
Well, going back as far as I can remember, I was always drawing mechanical things and always drawing from my imagination. And at first it was airplanes, and then it became robots and spaceships. sci-fi type stuff. And then I got into high school, and as I was getting into driving age, I began to pay a lot more attention to cars, and I'd pick up issues of Motor Trend magazine or Car and Driver and see these illustrations of like an artist's impression of a future, next generation, whatever, and those sketches really just captured my imagination. They were much more hand drawn at the time. Those kind of artists' impression of the future car. There's a famous designer by the name of Mark Sternberger who did a lot of those illustrations. Just hand drawn style, which was really exciting and impactful. At the same time, my dad he worked at Kodak in Rochester, New York, where I grew up, and was aware of he was not in the design profession, but was aware of the industrial design group within Kodak, and kind of knew how products were designed there. And so he turned me on very early to the idea of industrial design. He felt like it might be a good fit for me, and so I began to learn more about it, and then specifically the automotive design track within industrial design. And so that, I would say by early high school, it was like I kind of knew what I was going to do, and went full speed. And so by senior year, as I was looking for colleges, I was looking at colleges specifically focused on industrial design and with a bent toward automotive design. And so I ended up making the choice to attend Cleveland Institute of Art because it actually does not have a specific transportation design major. It's an industrial design degree in which you can choose a transportation track or a product track. But you have exposure to both. And so even though I really wanted to do cars, I felt that having an industrial design degree was going to prepare me for being a more well-rounded person, and also knowing how competitive the transportation design industry can be. It would give me a better footing for any other career opportunities outside of transportation. So that was my reason for going there, and that's still the reason why I support Cleveland Institute of Art.
What could you just kind of explain just really quickly? What were some things in industrial design that you think gave you helped you become more well-rounded as a designer? As you just mentioned, what are those things about industrial design that you wouldn't have gotten if you focused just straight down the transportation path?
Yeah, so industrial design is really about product creation. It's about solving problems, and it's about identifying the needs, wants, and desires of the user, getting to know your customer on a deep, empathetic level, and then turning that into a product, right? Into a product that they're going to want to buy. And I think a lot of people who are 100% focused on car design or car styling tend to lose sight of that as they pursue the transportation track, because it often involves it becomes much more focused on the styling of the vehicle, the excitement of the sketches and the renderings, right? The hot sketch, right? And there's a lot of hot sketches out there. Everybody wants to do a race car or a sports car in their portfolio, and there's a lot of beautiful work out there, but a lot of it is not really, they're not thinking as deeply and not solving as many problems. So car companies need both. They need people who are extremely intuitive stylists who know how to capture the brand DNA and how to capture the imagination of the customer, and how to really sell ideas within the company through these emotional, impactful sketches. But at the same time, we need people who are really able to solve problems, because at the end of the day, you've got to get from a sketch all the way to a drivable vehicle, right? And to me, a designer should play a central role in that. So it really has to go beyond the hot sketch and into problem solving, understanding the customer, understanding the needs, the business needs, the business objectives of the company, and how our work fits within that. Because at the end of the day, it's about getting cars on the road and delivering shareholder value to the investors.
Awesome. Well, I mean, that makes so much sense. I mean, I myself am an industrial design major, and I wanted to ask that question just, in case anybody watching didn't understand that background, but it does make a lot of sense, the thinking behind the designs that you're creating. Not to out any, automotive designers that went completely automotive track, their entire schooling. It tends to be a little more style focused, and it can tend to be more just focus on the style and not so much the thinking part of it. But I want to ask you, how does that translate into education? Because you've been involved in education as well, as you were talking before. Teaching students how to think. It seems to be something that is relevant in all of education, not just design. But I just remember myself when I was a student that I always wanted to make the cool looking stuff, but my professors were pulling me to really help me. Why did you do that? What's your validation behind that? Why did you make it that way? And so I guess I'm asking, what's been your experience teaching students and helping them to not just make beautiful, pretty sketches?
Yeah, I mean, like many of your teachers, I challenge my students to think deeper and to really have a message in what it is they're designing, and to really identify those needs and wants in their work, and to capture that in their work. So yeah, it goes into every bit of teaching that I do.
Well, I just want to ask you. So, I mean, obviously, some may be familiar with your work, some may not. But I mean, you have been using Gravity Sketch. I mean, we're on the Gravity Sketch YouTube channel. So, I just wanted to ask you, how did you discover Gravity Sketch? What was that process of first discovering Gravity Sketch and then realizing it can actually be a part of your workflow and even in your teaching?
Yeah, so learning new tools and learning the latest technologies in order to improve and accelerate the studio design process. That's something I've always done in my career. So, for example, with Polygon or sub-D modeling emerging as a leading tool for designers, I took that on very early and really helped to implement it at Ford, specifically when it comes to early stage design work. And so, for example, on the next gen Mustang, that was the first program I ran, where we skipped the entire stage of scale clay models and even early stage full scale models. And not only that, but I had my entire design team trained in Speedform, which was Alias's sub-D program at the time. They've now since integrated sub-D into Alias itself, but they had this program called Speedform, which was a very intuitive, easy to learn for designers, very easy to learn tool. And so all the designers were trained on it. They did all their own models. We did a series of executive reviews using virtual reality, using VRED, to validate those designs and to make design decisions. And we even went to market research and where we would normally show customers a series of full-scale physical models, we showed them VR. And so we were able to get down to, well, first of all, get down to 3 themes, which we milled directly in full-size clay. And rather than, usually when you mill from polygon data, it's very rough, and
Yeah.
then there's usually the clay modelers take over, and we kind of work from there. But what we did instead was I found that the designers were able to identify problems in the surfaces as it was milling, make
Wow.
the changes much faster than even the mill could mill it.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so we ended up we ended up having the milling machines just jumping back and forth side to side and milling the next iteration of the designer's model straight from their desk. And so we bypassed, like I said, all the early stage clay models. The models evolved extremely quickly, and we would just take them out every week with Dynoc and look at them in the clay in the courtyard. And then once we got through our market research in VR, we were able to get to a go for one theme direction. And at that point, we began to turn it over to clay modelers and Class A digital sculptors. And from there, it began to follow more of the traditional studio path. But we probably saved several months of work doing it digitally. So that was, while this was all happening, Michael Smith, who's one of our design managers, who you've probably spoken to extensively, began experimenting with Gravity Sketch. And at the time, Gravity Sketch was I saw what he was doing, and at the time, what I observed was it was merely a three-dimensional drawing tool. You could draw lines in space, you could maybe string a simple surface between two lines, but you really couldn't model with it. And so I thought there were some really interesting results he was getting from it. Very, as far as an architectural study tool, it was great, and as far as being able to sort of map out maybe an interior environment and just get a sense of space, I thought that was really good. But it was sort of in the back of my mind as we were progressing through this production program, because I was more focused on surfacing these design themes at the time. So fast forward a couple of years. So last year, starting in January of 2020, I began teaching again at Cleveland Institute of Art and spearheading this new way of teaching online to the students. And one of the students was Jonah Gardner, who you've probably also spoken to. He's a mad Gravity Sketch guru, and so it was his graduating semester. And I watched him do his senior thesis in Gravity Sketch, and he used it much differently than Michael Smith does, and achieved some very, very interesting results as well. So I began to really wake up to Gravity Sketch, because what I could see then was I could see a different artist. I saw designers being able to express themselves artistically. So if you can imagine back in the days of traditional media, every designer kind of had their own unique artistic style, and as the process became more and more digital, the artistic styles became more and more homogenized, right? And what I saw happening in Gravity Sketch was two different designers producing very, very different artistic imagery in 3D.
Yeah.
So that really started to wake me up. And then I began to find out about Gravity Sketch's rollout of Sub D, which happened about a year ago.
Yeah. And
once I saw what could be done in Sub D, basically anything you could do in Alias Sub D, Maya, Speedform, or Blender, you can do in Gravity Sketch with Sub D. So at that point, I was like, all right, I'm buying a headset. So at the time, I was beginning to launch the first Cardesign.academy course for the summer. So I picked up a headset, and as I was teaching, I learned it, and then within a week, I was teaching it. So
wow.
So So it's just been a great journey. And since then, I've developed exterior, full-on exterior interior models. I've even had models milled at Ford. I had an interior model. Was working on an advanced interior project, and I got to have it milled in full size styrofoam. So we were able to actually sit in it in physical space as well as VR. So I'm really beginning to see what you can do with Gravity Sketch, and I can pass data back and forth with alias modelers. So basically everything that we did with the Speedform process, we can do even better in VR, Gravity Sketch.
I'm just cycling through some of the images that you shared with me, and it's just an amazing example of just the interior and exterior work. Were these what were these images actually rendered in? I'm actually very curious.
Which images? I'm not seeing what you're showing.
Yeah, it's the off-road vehicle.
Hmm. The interior?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the images I sent you yesterday, those are in VRED. So that's taking
Okay.
gravity sketch data, exporting an OBJ, bringing it into the VRED, assigning materials and shaders, and
Yeah.
rendering it. Yeah,
That's what I figured. It was VRED. Yeah.
yeah. And it was a very quick process to do that.
Um, yeah, you mentioned that. I mean, you just said it a minute ago. I mean, you were learning it, and then 1 second later, you were teaching it, which is something that we also hear a lot, which is just that very, very shallow learning curve of just being able to start making something in Gravity Sketch. It doesn't even have to be particularly fine-tuned or nice, but you've made something in Gravity Sketch, and then it seems like as soon as you've made something, you immediately realize, oh, I could use that tool for this, and you're already making connections in your mind on how to improve your process. How was that? If I could just ask you, how that learning was for you when you were diving right in the beginning?
Oh yeah, I mean, the first thing I did was I went through all of the tutorial videos that are included in the Gravity Sketch app. There's 20 or 30 tutorials, and I just went through them one by one. They're about 5 minutes each, and practiced the exercises. And then within I'd say a day and a half, I was using it effectively. I was building my first full car. Of course, it helps that I have this extensive experience using a different sub-D tool set. I'm quite experienced in Maya and Speedform and Alias sub-D. So it was easy for me to. I understand the process of constructing a vehicle in sub-D. So.
Well, I know you kind of maybe touched on it a little bit when you were talking about some of the things you were experimenting with before Gravity Sketch, but I just want to ask you directly, how do you see VR changing the way we create and express our ideas? I mean, obviously you'll have from an automotive design perspective, but I mean, how do you see VR as it moves forward into the future? I mean, what do you see it evolving into?
Well, it's first of all, VR is fully immersive. So, never before have you been able to in real time design something in full size, and at human scale. We've always had to draw it on a small piece of paper or on a small computer screen, and try to imagine what it looks like in full scale. But now you can design it directly in full scale, and that's a game changer. That's literally a game changer. The other aspect, which is a fairly recent development with Gravity Sketch, is the co-creation feature, in which multiple users can collaborate on the same project. And so now we're using it in a lot of different ways. Not just with creating models, but creating experiences as well. So for example, I've got my students right now. We're doing a co-creation exercise where 10 of us are going into co-creation and designing a 21st century American drive-in diner post-COVID. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I have no idea what it's going to look like at the end, but then I'm also able to meet one-on-one with each of my students throughout the week in Gravity Sketch and give them really, really solid direction.
Wow.
So that's a game changer. So there's the product creation, and then there's also the visualization. So when we talk about stakeholders, for example, in the Mustang example, I talk about the series of executive reviews that we did in VR using VRED, right? And even going to the customers, again in VRED. VRED gives you a great photorealistic impression of the vehicle in full size. However, there's nothing you can do with it except point at it, right? You can move around, you can look at it from different angles, and you can point a laser beam at it. And so we have collaboration sessions in VRED with executives where we're looking at a model, and they're able to point at it and talk about what they're talking about. But in Gravity Sketch, a stakeholder using co-creation, a stakeholder could literally draw on the vehicle, which is something that often happens when you're dealing with a physical clay model. You take the model outside everybody's looking at it. Murray Callum or whoever the boss is, they're all looking at it, and they take turns putting tape lines on it, right? Giving their input on the clay model. Well, in Gravity Sketch, you can do that virtually. So now they could now that we're a location independent virtual studio, our stakeholders have now the opportunity to participate in a deeper way on the design process. So Michael and I are also looking at using Gravity Sketch even as just purely a Class A surface valuation tool, in which a designer, a manager, and a Class A modeler upload a CATIA surface into Gravity Sketch, and we use the zebra stripes to evaluate surface highlights, and then we can, using Gravity Sketch's drawing tools, we can apply annotations for the Class A sculptor, which they can then download into CATIA as an actual piece of data that they can work to.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, the annotation aspect is just super powerful there. I think that it kind of answers someone's question. We have a few questions coming in actually on the chat here.
Right.
Manuel's asking what makes Gravity Sketch design software different compared to other industrial design software, and I think you covered it through some of the things that you said there, which is, just the fact that it's all in full scale. The collaboration aspect, the annotating, and then you can bring that all into your traditional software if you like. So it's not all, it's not all kept inside the Gravity Sketch bubble.
Right. Yeah, like I'm regularly passing data back and forth with Alias modelers with my Gravity Sketch projects. So
perfect example.
Yeah, through OBJ exports, IGES exports, FBX. There's a number of different ways that you can share files with many different 3D applications. And so that would be my summary. Is it's the immersive aspect of virtual reality. It's also, I would say, the simplicity of the interface, which makes it super easy to learn. I think having created a three-dimensional modeling software has forced a complete rethink of the interface, using nothing but the two hand controllers. I think the interface that Gravity Sketch has created is genius. It's extremely intuitive and easy to learn compared to what you would find in Maya or Blender. Blender is an extremely confusing program to learn, and I find that I'm teaching students who are trying to use Blender because it's open source and free, right? And I'm teaching other students that are using Gravity Sketch, and the students using Gravity Sketch just move ahead so much quicker. Not only because of they understand what they're modeling, but the interface is so simple. Plus the co-creation aspect where I can meet with them and give them real-time feedback.
Right. Yeah. The power of it's amazing, and we try not to make it all about Gravity Sketch for these interviews, but it is really good to talk about, and hear from, teachers and professionals like yourself, how specifically it is, helping your workflow and how it's affected your work. And so, we're always fascinated by, how that changes, because it affects everybody differently in really minute ways. And so,
I think where it's a real game changer too is with interiors, automotive interiors, because an interior has always been, it's always a very challenging thing to draw because it's an environment that surrounds you, right? So there's no way in one drawing you can draw a whole interior, right? You have to draw this view of the interior and that view of the interior, and then hopefully your viewer will piece together what the environment looks like. That's if you're drawing traditionally. And you're using these cutaway views, cut off the roof so you can see kind of what the seats look like. And of course there's a lot of really cool artistic ways to do that, but to actually but you'll never know what the space is really like through a sketch or even a 3D model on a computer screen. But by designing in real time in VR, it's like you can literally sit in a chair and design the car around you, design a complete environment, and experience like the placement of interfaces and the outward visibility. How well can you see over the hood or around this A pillar? You have the answers to all of that as you're designing it. And how can you make use of center console space, and how do your passengers feel as they're sitting in the environment? So it's a real game changer with interiors.
I do have a few questions coming in from let's see, Calvin Kim, and he's actually asking, it looks like, questions more about Cardesign.academy. He's asking, let's see, this is a good question, because this is actually a pretty common question. It's a portfolio question. It says, how should I show and what to how should I show and what do you show in your portfolio? How many projects do you show in your portfolio? It's kind of a broad question, but what's I guess what I'm gathering from this question is, what's the best way to show your projects in a portfolio? How many projects is good in a portfolio? I'm assuming for an automotive design portfolio, because they're also asking about Cardesign.academy as well. So
So with portfolios, it's a very broad question, and it's very it's case by case, right? There's very specific, but I would say, generally, so I do play a role in the recruiting process at Ford. I'm not the decision maker, but I do go through portfolios, and I recommend people to look at. And what I like to see is, obviously you got to have a killer skill set, right? You got to have amazing drawings, and you have to have a very strong Viscom rendering style. I think having command of all design mediums, 2D and 3D, is important. And I'd say, as far as projects go, Jonah, for example, he's actually just been offered a job at one of the automakers, and I saw, I tried really hard to pitch him at Ford, but somebody else got him first. But he had, I think, 4 or 5 projects, I think, in there. I would say 3 main projects, and he's a graduating student, so that's about probably about all he can show from 4 years of school. As a professional, if you're an experienced professional, you probably have a lot more to show. And as far as what you show, I mean, I think you need to have a good balance. Think about the role in the studio that you'd like to play. There's, for example, if you're trying to compete for a job, there's a lot more competition among people going for an exterior designer position versus an interior designer position. There's always a lot more people competing for those jobs. And then there's other roles within the studio that in which there is a lot of demand and far fewer candidates. So, for example, human HMI, or user interface design, right? We have an extremely high demand for that right now, and it's very difficult to find the people to fill those positions. Through let's put it this way, through the whole pandemic, that was the only team within design that was still hiring.
That is very interesting. I wanted to, I'm assuming there's probably these aspects of automotive design that get overlooked. Digital sculptors, clay sculptors, clay modeling is we're the Jedi Master clay modelers are retiring, and the people coming up behind them are not nearly as experienced and skilled. Now, I do believe in the future there's going to be less of a need for armies of clay modelers. You're going to want to have a few really, really good ones, but they're going to be working at later stages of the creative process, more in the finishing stages versus the creation stages.
but I'm a believer that the best person to interpret a design at the early stages is the designer. So I know there's a lot of people that debate about that. A lot of managers who like to see a designer do nothing but sketch and a modeler do nothing but model. But I like this. I think modelers who can sketch are better modelers, and designers who can model are better designers.
Yeah.
So
it does make sense.
Yeah, I've always blurred the lines between designing and modeling. Yeah. So.
It does. It is. I can understand from a manager perspective. I mean, I'm not a design manager, but I can get it to the point where you want people to kind of be in their sort of their lane of what they do. But there is just a lot of natural, blurriness bleeding over in the design industry, and which is great. I mean, it's more cross collaboration, and I think. But I mean, what you just said makes so much sense. I mean, if you're take shoes for example. I know we've been talking about automotive, but traditionally in the shoe design industry, 3D for shoe designers has not been the history. It's been 2D sketches, side profiles, and then basically all the orthographic angles. Being able to model a shoe in 3D has just not been part of the pipeline, at least for the designer. But now, because of Gravity Sketch and because of some of these other tools like Blender, that's changing. And the design intent, I think what you were getting at there too, is that the design intent is being carried through much farther from the designer, instead of hoping that the modeler, or in some cases it's an engineer that's modeling it, interpreting your sketch and hoping that the intent stays all the way through to the end.
Yeah. I would just say, just to finish off the portfolio discussion, I would say try to have a variety of vehicle types. So, obviously everybody wants to do the hot sports car or race car. It's good to have, I think, at least one of those. But I think you also need to have some really deep thinking projects, maybe it's a mobility concept or, something like that. I think having balance between exteriors and interiors is valuable. Definitely demonstrate your skills, 2D and 3D. So anything you can do to broaden the amount of people that can take you seriously, take your portfolio seriously. I think definitely one of the caution areas that I often tell people is, I see a lot of people try to take some iconic vehicle and redesign it, like let's say a Porsche 911. And I would caution against that, because I think cars like the 911 are such iconic vehicles with such there's so many people in the car design world that are Porsche nuts.
Yeah.
And they have very strong opinions about what a Porsche is and should be, and it's not all the same. One guy might have a different opinion than another, but it's a very, very deep seated, strong opinion of what a Porsche is. And I see a lot of examples of people who do not do it well, or they do it maybe differently than I would do it. And anyway, you're inviting yourself for some trouble, when someone sees your portfolio and there's an attempt at a Porsche 911 in there, right? So
that's very interesting. So would you say you would?
I've seen a few people do it very successfully, but it's a very it's a tightrope. It's a very risky thing to do. Yeah. If you do it right and everybody loves it, that's great. But it is kind of a high risk project. And even like I said, I work on Mustang at Ford, and that's an iconic product. And even within Ford, it's a very, very politically, active kind of project to work on. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of every single person in the company has an opinion, and a very strong opinion of what a Mustang should be, and it's not always the same, right? Yeah. And even within Ford, the idea of doing the Mach-E battery electric crossover as a Mustang was highly controversial. And only because it came from Jim Farley at the top that it was able to happen. That would not have happened within our internal politics. It took a directive from the top. So
wow. I can imagine though. There's those cars have such a long history, evolution.
Yeah.
So are you saying then that it's okay to do a project where you are redesigning a car, but maybe pick something that's not as iconic or not as well known,
or put a different spin on it.
Yeah.
So Jonah, for example, for his senior project, he did a Mustang. That was actually the design brief for our sponsored project, and he did a Mustang project, but he focused more on the interior for that one, which was, I think, very smart.
Yeah.
There's a lot less politics around what a Mustang interior should be versus an exterior. And he for the exterior, he actually stayed very true to what a Mustang already is. He didn't really stray too far from the formula. And I don't think the Mustang is nearly as prescriptive as Porsche. You don't have the same sort of rabid following of it's Porsche is almost a religion, right? So if you don't get it right, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
So,
it's true.
Yeah. So
Well,
so it really depends,
I want to ask you, it is from the same person. We are getting some portfolio questions, and you're a great person to ask about this. So I just want to ask it. And they're asking for this for both exterior and interior. So if you want to be an exterior designer, what should you show more of? Sketches, renderings, design process? Which one of those three things? And then if you want to be an interior designer, is it okay to show exterior projects in your portfolio?
So I think you just need to demonstrate that not only can you do a hot sketch, but you can deliver a real vehicle, right? So I definitely think the center point is sort of the hot sketches, but then to deliver a great model that represents a three-dimensional expression of that sketch, I think is extremely important. So being able to demonstrate a strong command of 3D. There's a lot of people who can do a hot sketch that have no idea what they're doing in 3D. So we see those people all the time, and generally figure out what show that you can figure out what it is you're drawing, and then develop it three-dimensionally. I think that's the ideal.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Expressing your concept.
I'm seeing a lot of successful portfolios now involving, and it may be collaborations with people in animation departments or game design departments, but I see some really nice animations of three-dimensional models from being done out of Unreal Engine or Blender or anything like that, and so those are I'm starting to see a lot more of those as showpieces. As we go to these virtual type of student shows, where you're not going to be standing next to a physical model at a student show, but you have to deliver your portfolio virtually. So animations are now becoming very very popular way of showcasing. I mean, it's always been about showmanship. It's always been about find a way to just amaze people. Whatever it is. You have to to a certain extent surprise and delight and deliver something unexpected. That's very compelling.
One thing I'm thinking of as you're saying that there, I think that platforms like Pinterest and some of these other things can be so saturated that, and I was guilty of this too in school. A lot of designers, students will want to look at Pinterest, look at Behance, and look at all these other projects for inspiration, deriving their inspiration from other student automotive design projects. And I was steered away from that, from one of my professors, because he was basically saying that you're just going to create what somebody else created, just like another version of it, and it's just going to be this giant sort of feedback of design language. It'll all start to look the same. Look for inspiration outside of automotive. Look at nature. Look at other these things. Is this what are your thoughts on this, especially teaching?
I think that's generally good advice. But I do think Pinterest, and I mean, in my day it was Car Styling magazine or Auto and Design magazine. That's what we used to see what was going on in the automotive design world, and who was doing the hot sketches, right? So I cut my teeth on Car Styling magazine and Auto and Design magazine. today you have this amazing world of unlimited amounts of amazing work in social media and in Instagram, Pinterest, and I don't see anything wrong in taking advantage of it. I kind of learned by seeing someone else's style and kind of copying it, and then I see someone else's style and kind of copy it. And pretty soon, it all kind of becomes your style. It kind of mixes together.
Very
becomes
interesting.
Your style.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you also have an incredible opportunity to get your work out there and get real world feedback on it. I say a lot of designers are afraid to show anything publicly because they're afraid that somebody's going to steal their idea, and frankly, someone probably will.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say this: if you worry so much about someone copying you that you don't show anything, nobody's going to know you exist.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
And at the end of the day, the people who matter are going to know who did it, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to know you did it.
Yeah.
And I've seen this before. There was someone recently on LinkedIn that made a big stink about a startup automaker copying their senior thesis design, and I kind of wrote to him and I said, hey, don't make such a big public stink about it. Just be happy they copied you and move on and do the next great sketch, right?
Yeah.
And I thought what he did was beautiful. I didn't think it was groundbreaking or super innovative, but it was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very kind of classical kind of design. So it was a design that was right for something similar that came out. So anyway, with social media, you have the opportunity to actually put your work out in that space alongside everyone else's work, and so. Then you can get real-time feedback. I mean, I put out design demos every week, and I actually do track the analytics on them, and I can tell you which ones get more likes, which ones get more link clicks, and that's a super valuable tool for me, because now I can tell what's resonating. So,
yeah.
And plus it gets your work out there.
Yeah.
And people see it. So like Jonah, for example, I think part of the reason why he's been successful in being one of the first college graduates of the 2020 class to get hired is because he's very outspoken in social media and always putting his work out there. And he takes feedback really well. He'll take opinions and feedback from people, and he'll put that into his next round of work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's thank you. It's very insightful. It's just all these platforms are super powerful when utilized correctly. Well, I want to ask you, and just to bring it a little bit more back to Gravity Sketch now, this is something that we always ask our guests. What tools specifically in Gravity Sketch have you enjoyed, and what are some tools that you wish you would have in Gravity Sketch?
Well, I think the Gravity Sketch tool set is pretty fantastic. I think more photorealistic representation and as a stakeholder evaluation tool. I think in competition with VRED. So ultimately, if I could review with stakeholders in a photorealistic environment of VRED level, and then be able to draw with it, I think that would be a great work stream. I think also using Gravity Sketch Cocreation as a Class A surface evaluation feature. So anything that can help facilitate that in terms of file transfers and file conversions.
Yeah.
That'll probably be limited to Oculus Rift or HTC Vive systems running off of PCs. Quest is you're not gonna get that on Quest, but within the studio space you're not gonna be using Quest anyway. So those are definitely opportunities that I would say.
I know that the team is definitely very interested in more visualization, improvements in the visualization in Gravity Sketch, as well as in Landing Pad as well, as that evolves and improves. That tool being that web-based tool being a way to bring in people that maybe don't have access to VR but want to still evaluate, look at the design, things like that. So yeah, it's definitely a great. I think that echoes what we've been hearing for sure from the community. I want to ask you, where can we find? So you said that you do. I mean, obviously you're a Cardesign.academy, but you do YouTube videos as well.
Yes.
So we can find you. That's Cardesign.academy YouTube channel, right? Or
there's Cardesign.academy is the domain of Cardesign. Yeah. So www.cardesign.academy is where you can find all the information about what I do, and then I have a YouTube channel, which is the Cardesign.academy YouTube channel. And we have a Facebook page, we have an Instagram account, Pinterest. We're on all the major social media, and so Cardesign Academy is really it's a great opportunity to learn in real time, one-on-one. One of the big strategic decisions I made with Cardesign.academy was to make it more about interaction, personal interaction between my students and myself, or the instructor, and less on the consumption of videos. So like there's other online programs out there where you subscribe and you get to watch all these videos, but you don't get a lot of real feedback on your work.
Yeah.
And so the decision I made was that all the videos would be free to watch on YouTube, on the YouTube channel and on the website, but the paid courses are really about having this personal mentoring, this personal coaching, and that's what I do. And so I structure my courses in what I call 10-week intensives. I do them up to 4 times a year for groups of up to 10 people. We meet once a week to review everyone's work each week, and there's a lot of great dialogue and communication that happens within that group each week. And then I schedule a weekly one-on-one session with each student to give them just whatever the personal coaching and mentoring is that they need.
Wow.
And the courses are not structured by any specific skill set. It's really more about your portfolio and your particular skill goals. So I work on an individual level with that.
Wow, so it's very personalized.
Yes, it's extremely personalized and it's extremely interactive. We use in addition to for those using Gravity Sketch, we use Cocreation, but I also use Bluescape, which is an online meeting program, which is far more interactive than Zoom, and it's sort of our online virtual classroom. So using the latest collaboration tools, I can provide a really deep personal experience, and we're getting a lot of interest. So we just started our winter 2021 design intensive. I had room for 10 and I got 11. And that's going really well. And following that, my goal is to start bringing on more teachers. So I'm reaching out now to other design instructors, specifically ones that have experience at other schools and who share sort of the vision of reinventing design education. And so, as more students come, like I'm at capacity now with what I can handle. So as more students come on, we'll have more teachers. And what I want is a teachers with a variety of skill sets and a variety of specialties and a variety of perspectives, so that just like at a major degree program, you have the opportunity to get a complete design education from the beginner level all the way to getting that job. Long-term vision, I want to get involved with corporate sponsorships and apprenticeships,
awesome,
things like that. But the vision is really to provide this complete design education at a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
And really focusing on the portfolio.
Yeah.
Not
That's
so much
huge.
on. there's no grades, there's no certificates, there's no degrees. It's all about you and your skills and your portfolio.
Yeah, that's just amazing. And I mean, I have parents that are in online teaching and training, and I see firsthand how it can be quite overwhelming when it's just you handling, even a few dozen people in a very personalized way. So it's
Yeah,
can get to be a lot.
yeah,
But that's amazing, though. And just the future of Cardesign Academy. I love. That's. I mean, actually, kind of first what drew me on to reaching out to you was seeing Cardesign Academy and the services and the things that it's providing to people that just want to learn how to design cars and learn these skills that have just traditionally been kind of a pretty large barrier to entry. But it's making it more available to people that want to learn these skills. I just want to ask, are there any projects that you're working on now that you want to sort of hint at, or not industry, or sorry, not maybe projects you're working on at work, but maybe other things on the side, things that you have planned in the near future?
Yeah. So I do what I do is during these 10-week intensives, I try to sort of follow along with my own little project and what I do is I structure all of my design demos off of that. And so our design challenge for the winter 2021 intensive is we have a collaborative component, we have an individual component. So the collaborative component is to redesign this classic American drive-in diner, but
cool.
for the 21st century post pandemic, right? And then to design the car culture. So for everyone to go and create a vehicle that's going to interact in this environment. Just like in the original American diners, that those were the centerpieces of car culture in the 50s and 60s. So we're going to create a car culture, and everybody's going to design their own car and bring it to the 21st century diner. And so that's the design challenge we're working on right now. I'm doing a couple of different projects. I've got this future Corvette that I'm working on. It's like a mid-engine fully electric Corvette that I've got. It's where I'm exploring this totally new design language. And then I want to do like this full-size pickup where I can have this really open and flexible interior. I want to look at different ways you can eat in the car, that kind of thing. So I'm working on the exteriors right now, and then I'm going to start demoing a bunch of interior exercises for both my Cleveland students and the Cardesign Academy students.
Well, that's just awesome. I just want to thank you, Eric, once again for joining us today and sharing your experience, sharing your insights in education and in the industry itself. I really appreciate your time. I do want to just ask you one final question. This is something that I've been asking. Is there just any lasting or any parting advice you would give to anyone watching, whether a designer or artist, anybody that's involved in the creative field at all, even just as a professional? Is there any advice that you would give?
Well, I'd say if you're a beginner level and you want to just get a taste of car design, definitely Cardesign.academy is a great place to start going. Even just to watch the YouTube videos, and then if you want to get serious and take a course, just reach out to me. But then to the more experienced designers, especially those who are in the job search right now, especially during this economy that we're in, where most of the car companies are locked down for hiring. I just want to say it's as much as it is about the portfolio, it's all about the network as well. And so what I'm finding is the people who are getting the jobs are the ones that have a strong professional network, personal and professional network. And so, get on LinkedIn, get on social media, be showing your work, but also, be reaching out to people.
Yeah.
And, don't feel like you're going to send out this perfect portfolio and, they're going to say, yay or nay, right? It's not like that. It's not always like that. A lot of times it's about building relationships with people because, at the end of the day, it's as much about you and how you work with people as it is about your skills. So, so don't be shy about, just, getting out there, networking with people, talking to people, getting advice, from people, and because that's what the people are doing that are getting the jobs. And just to give you an idea, I've worked at 3 car companies, and in all 3 cases, I filled out the job application after I was offered the job. So, and that's because I always had some kind of inside connection.
Yeah.
So, if you see an ad on Car Design News or Forum Trends or or LinkedIn, right? And you go and you're like, oh, so and so is hiring. So you click on the website and you upload a PDF of your portfolio and a resume and all that. I guess the people who see that are the HR people, and they don't know anything. So you end up with this huge pile of resumes and portfolios that no one ever sees, and you're never going to get the job.
Yeah.
It more often than not, it's because somebody in the company. They've seen your work. They already know who you are and what you do. They know what kind of a person you are. They know how you work with people, and they go to their boss and say, "Hey, take a look at this guy." Boss says, "Okay, get him in for an interview," and you bypass the whole HR process because they can tell HR go get that guy, right?
Yeah.
So when it came to graduating from Cleveland, at the time, the school did a lot more, I think, on behalf of the students for networking. And so, by the time I graduated, I already had, knew very well. They all knew me very well. And, the one that, the first, one of them actually came with an envelope. They just walked into the student show, walked up to my booth and handed me the envelope, the fat envelope with the offer.
Wow.
And and then with Hyundai, it was through a headhunter, through a recruiting system, and then with Ford, it was it was through my former boss at Hyundai, who ended up he had left Hyundai and went to Ford, and got me a meeting with with the higher ups, and that was it. And in all 3 cases, I was offered the job, and then I went to the HR website and filled out the application and uploaded the resume and all that stuff.
Got to go through the official process, to make it official after.
Exactly. So yeah, you're never going to get the job just filling out applications and sending PDF portfolios, right?
Yeah.
You've got to be on the ground, getting to know these people, the people who are making decisions, but also, and as time goes by, you do, those of you who are experienced designers who might be like between jobs right now because of the economy, chances are people at lots of other car companies. The more time you have in the industry, we're a close-knit group of people.
Yeah.
And and pretty soon, people move from people move to different companies, and pretty soon somebody at just about every company. So
yeah.
You've got your network will just naturally grow and grow. Use that network. Use that network. Don't be shy about reaching out to people, even if you're don't feel like you're going to burn a friendship or anything like that. Just reach out to them. Be cool. Don't be a pain in the neck, but and I'll tell you what, these people feel really good. People like me feel really good about giving advice, looking at a portfolio, giving advice, and ultimately, I feel good if it's the right portfolio, if it's somebody I feel strongly about. I like being able to send it to my boss and say, hey, let's get a look at this guy,
Yeah.
But just understand that it reflects on them. So they're not gonna help you. They'll be able to give you advice, but they won't be able to show your portfolio to other people until they feel, because it's a reflection on them, until
Right.
they feel that your work is up to that level. So
yeah.
Well,
that's great advice. Excellent advice, Eric. It's so relevant to even right now. I mean, the times that we're in, it's the industry was already very selective, and things are probably even more selective now. So it's just, but it is encouraging to hear, just exercise those relationships that you already have. You probably, if you really thought about it, there's probably some strings you could pull, some people you could talk to. That was some advice that, was given to me as well. And so, so that's just some really great points there. Well, again, I just really want to thank you for your time, Eric. And I want to thank everybody that's been joining and been listening. If you missed the interview in the beginning, or you joined in halfway, this will be available as soon as it's over. So feel free to go back and watch it from the beginning. We're also going to have links to all of Eric's all of Eric's channels in the description as well. So Cardesign Academy, the YouTube channel, as well as the Instagram, all of it. So we'll make sure that's linked up, and you guys can all check that out. Please go check out Cardesign.academy and look at what they offer there. But yeah, just want to thank you again, Eric. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Keep up the good work at Gravity Sketch.
Awesome. Yeah, we sure will. All right. See you, everybody.
Yeah. Cheers.